Alrighty tidy. That's sinking into the sand a wee bit. Is you, baby. Dun, 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 dun. Hey. Welcome on in, guys. It's a beautiful morning here in New Zealand, and we've got boats on the harbour and boats on the lake. So a little bit of all the things. Now I've got my fantastic little stool here, which is serving us in all the ways that we want it to. Oh yeah, Ryan, this is a wonderful place. Just need to shampoo my hair is all. What's my favourite Italian food? I feel like pizza can always be so different, but my secret love's definitely for pasta. Definitely for pasta. And how's our connection, guys? Do we have enough Wi-Fi? I can always bring the Starlink closer if it's a little bit jittery. You let me know. Today, we're working on these delightful little boats, which are on the water of Hong Kong Harbour. And there's just a few little pockets where I want to add in this purple to control the composition a little bit better up close. Pasta's good, but nothing beats plain pizza. I mean, I don't know, Chad. I think pizza has a higher ceiling. So like pizza can get better and better and better, but I think excuse my hay fever. I think pasta has a inherent cap in how good it can get. Is that fair? Maybe someone from Rome here who says, no, that is so incorrect. I'm going to grab a if you're happy to wait for me, I will be back in a few moments. Oh, but nothing tops a plain pizza. Now I'm on board. And California, is that Patriot? Patriot. You love reference image for commissions, else just imagination. This is true. I must have missed something there though, Ryan. Right, I'm going to come back. Let me just grab a few bits and pieces. Jeepers. Lucky the water level didn't rise. Could have been in for it. There we go. And let me just plug you in. Nice and close. There we go. Make sound. I think we do. How's that? Hopefully that's a bit of sound. We will see. Then we'll bring you all the way over to here. You lovely bunch. We'll put you right there. How's that, team? Lovely place to be. I don't understand, George, but lovely to have you here. I was just down here filming a bunch of reels, which was pretty fun. Bunch of little reels, one after the next, of just comments back to a whole bunch of videos. Good morning, Emery's. Now we get to be down here painting. It's a lovely, lovely place to be. We'll dabble with this, but something feels wrong. I feel constricted in the pants and footwear. We might just be a little bit silly and go out in the water shortly. But we'll persevere here. Continue to see how this feels. There we go. Absolutely gorgeous. This is dioxide purple. It has the most lovely effect. We've just talked about it before, we'll talk about it again, but deepening those black areas, making them more intense. Are you going to start breakdancing like your neighbour country?
I've never had very good balance on any direction
Other than straight up and down. Things like backflips, spinning on your head, they never really fully resonated with me. There we go. Whew. There we are. Little pockets of dark cyan purple. It's an interesting sounding bird of all things. Very interesting sounding bird. It's funny how, as we keep building through these colours, there's little spots I'd love to keep just the way they are. There's other spots that need a bit more time to come into fruition. Just got to keep focusing on the fact that we can't see boats. All we can see is little spots of colour and little spots of movement. hay fever is a horrible, horrible thing. Your attire is very sportswear today. It is. I'm very happy for that. It's a sporty day. Merry Christmas Eve from Scotland. Merry Christmas Eve from New Zealand. It's Christmas Eve today. With a painting of boats. Fun times. And I'm going to do my very best to keep the paint, the purples, the reds, the greens, the blues, the yellows, the oranges, off my clothes if possible. But it may be wishful thinking. We'll see how we go. I suspect I may be being just simply too wishful, but if we can do it, why not try? And I've got some really fun news as well. The last part of my paint supplies, the other pigments I needed for this picture, have actually arrived in Tauranga for Christmas. So I think we need to come back on Christmas Day and do another painting set, literally on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve for the Americans, to celebrate that. There we go. Logan, welcome to the team. Lovely to have you here. Let me put you right there, guys. Let me just get this stand out the right way here. There we go. I'll move this back a little bit. Now we're talking. Now we're talking. I've literally had to put you guys in the water, so navigate that. But we're better here for it. Don't worry, the waves won't always be this intense. It's just right now with the waves coming in from a boat that must have passed a little while ago. They're just a bit more all over the show. There we go. Get a bit of this through there. A bit more of that white. And we just... I think I've got another smaller brush down here as well. We'll dabble between the two. DJ, thanks so much. I appreciate that, DJ. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. It's interesting how some songs can be so catchy, and yet only appear for 1 month of the year and then disappear again. How does that work, guys? How do we fall in love? I say fall in love. Some people hate Christmas songs. But there's a ritual element to them, that we all bring them out. And Mariah Carey, now she makes a good Christmas song. What's the hardest thing I've ever painted? What's the hardest thing I've ever painted? I think the hardest thing can be subjects very, very close to your heart, like friends and family members. The reason why they can be tough is because it's hard to create a true impression of them when the expression that you feel for them usually overpowers your feelings, your ability to paint. You'll overextend certain items, body features, expressions, and it's very, very hard to be very, what's the word? Very hard to not be biased when you paint a family member or a loved one into what you believe you see. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but no matter how hard you try, expressionism is going to play a massive role in subjects you're all too familiar with. It's unescapable. Absolutely unescapable. That's not a bad thing, it's just the reality of it. So when I paint my friends and family members, that's not a bad thing, it's just the reality of it. So when I paint my friends and family members, that. But if it's a stranger, if it's a subject you haven't seen before, if it's all these sorts of things, then your ability to actually capture what's truly there is heightened because you have no past history that constructs narratives around certain shapes, elements in the picture, colours. See, if you're used to your brother always laughing and smiling, when you paint your brother, you will not be able to help but to actually allow a laugh and a smile to morph the face, even if it's not there. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's almost certainly an element that you'll have. Hello, what's up? What's up? The sky is up. And I'm allowed to say that because I'm a millennial and I'm born to an uncool generation. So allow me to be uncool. I thought unbiased and you said it essentially. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. 100%. And that's the same reason why conflicts of interest and all sorts of roles, whether it be government or business, these things are the same essentially. You have a conflict of interest. And as an artist, if you're painting a picture, if you have a conflict of interest, it's going to play a role in the result. 100%. Inescapable. Inescapable. And if you have an artist who's like, I don't have a conflict of interest, I paint from my heart and from my heart only. No, I'm not saying it's impossible, but you do have more of a fight or a challenge to overcome. You can't just pretend there's no conflict of interest. That's another thing that you, inside your mind, need to dabble with. It's not impossible, but it's an added thing. Let's not even begin to pretend like it's not a thing. There we go. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Need some black. Where's we'll settle for blue. Bunch of blue, overpowering blue. There we are. right the way around the edge. Beautiful. And over these edges. Also beautiful. Gorgeous popping colour. And areas where black would probably sit quite nicely. I'm letting blue play a role. Not too much of a role, but enough of one that actually adds a lot of fun to the image. Everywhere the colours need just a little bit more of something special, a little bit more refining maybe. An added oomph is a fair thing to say. An added oomph. There we go. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Santa Claus is coming to town. Do 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 do. Aloo da ba da be da do. Welcome Sunday. Is that Sunday? Am I reading that name right? Stand back for a moment and gaze at that. Beautiful. And a few more little strokes just. You know, it'd be quite fun. Maybe, just maybe, we actually finish this work on Christmas Day. How funny would that be? And Michael, Merry Christmas back at you. Happy holidays to you and your family. And welcome, coming on in to 2025. A quarter of the way through the 21st century, guys. How wild is that? Long time no see, Marco. Welcome back in. The kind of art medium, is this kind of art medium consider, I see what you're asking. Question is this kind of art medium considered post-impressionism? So, I'll say one thing, and this is casting broad strokes, but you can almost safely say any art medium is any movement if you construct the argument in a certain way. There's not really, and it sounds bad, it's hard to make false claims when it comes to art because so much of it's subjective or allowing an open-ended answer or opinions that to call you wrong is a tough thing to do. Tough thing to do. We can say probably not right or unfactual or less clear, but just outright wrong? Nah, it's not like maths. It's tougher to do that. You would certainly though, just outright wrong? Nah, it's not like maths. It's tougher to do that. You would certainly though, those words, would similar art show up? So if you wrote post-impressionism into Google, would you get work like this? And if the answer is yes, then that's probably a good way for us as humans to define it, to understand that concept better. So you could say colourful impressionism. If you said abstract, abstract, though can be defined in a bunch of different ways, typically means very abstract. You don't typically Google abstract and get something mildly abstract. They're always very abstract. But using the word abstract to describe it, that would also be correct. And one little flick I like to use and talk about is the primal element behind the art, because nowadays we're not painting with the fanciest, newest mediums like they were in the old days. People in the old days may have referred to tablets like they do today as the best way of making art, except we're not doing that. We're using old school paint, which for them was the new school, but for us, this is old school. So there's a primal element to it. So I say primal impressionism, but there's no, that term probably won't Google you anything important. That's just a way that I like to define it. And so in terms of a definition, not very helpful for you. But I feel like there's modern impressionism, where you make an impression with the most modern tools you have available. And maybe even AI plays a role in that. And then you've got primal impressionism, where we go a bit more old school with our technique. And I feel like that's okay too. Whatever your preference lies on. When you see the art though, there's a couple of factors. The first one's the attention. Does it grab your attention? Does it feel good on the instant that you see it? You're welcome. And if it does, it's a great sign. But attention's not everything. Sometimes artists completely curve to it, but it's only the first part. The next part, once you've been sucked in to an artwork, is what's the reward? So a lot of artwork grabs your attention because it's startling, but once it's grabbed it, there's no reward for being there. So attention grabbed, and then what's the reward? You look at it for longer. Do you start seeing more? Does it give you a little bit of a game where you think you see a person or maybe a landscape, or is, that little moment where you wonder? So the reward for giving your attention to something can be a brief little moment of wonderment, and that's valuable. But after that, there's one more facet that I see with art. So you have your initial attention, you have the reward for giving your attention, and then you have the ongoing passive reward. Does it give anything else past that initial interaction? Can you get more out of the art? And if the answer is yes, well, now we're talking about a masterpiece. You need those three categories. And the ongoing reward I'm talking about is not just it's a pretty picture, because that novelty wears off. It really does. With everything, beauty wears off. Does it have Easter eggs in it? And for example, with this kind of work, and not all work works like this, but in my work, all the brushstrokes are unpredictable. You couldn't make a map of every last one of them in your brain. And so every time you look at it, you'll notice new brushstrokes and moments that you missed the previous time. And as you do this over a long period of time, by the time you get back to the first ones you'd noticed, you'll have forgotten about them. And you'll go on this endless loop of re-realizing the painting. Now that's not an experience you get in the gallery, that's an experience you get over years with a piece of artwork. Aloha. And without that re-realizing and reimagining the painting, there wouldn't be value past taking it away from the gallery. You need to have a reason to actually live with the artwork. Otherwise, you only need to see it once. So that ongoing passive reward for the long-term value of it to a collector or a loved one, that immediate attention, did it grab you in a world of literally infinite ideas? Did it stand out to you specifically? Was it special to you? And then once you were grabbed, did it reward you for giving your attention? Those are the three steps. So often you'll see art that grabs you. You might see art that rewards you even though it doesn't grab. You might see art that passively gives huge value, but neither reward nor grabbed. And so it's only once you align all three that you really start dealing in the realms of masterpieces. And everyone's going to have different opinions on how to judge those categories, or if those categories even exist. I believe the actual greatest work that continues to reward, the more you look at it, is works like Monet's, where you actually see a multitude of tiny little strokes that build up into this image with beautiful colour in it. And Monet suffered from cataracts. So Monet's eyesight wasn't the finest later in his life, and yet he continued to paint. And I see that as a case similar to Beethoven, where Beethoven actually began to go deaf. And actually, once that restriction was placed on him, that's where his best music was made. And I am inclined to believe that the same thing happened to Monet. I reckon his best artwork was probably made when he had to rethink art in its entirety, subtly, philosophically, as his eyesight started to not let him down, but to change. I know the impression of a painting. I have the, oh hold on, let me come up to read this with my dirty knees. I have the impression of a painting, and of course when you get closer, you see more distinctly. That's interesting, because one of the things that can happen is, I love that. I'll get to that question next. One of the things that can happen with a painting is actually from a distance it has clarity, but as you get closer to it, it'll lose that clarity and get lost in the chaos of the brushstrokes. My paintings make very little sense up close, but a huge amount from a distance. And now for a hilarious statement which I love to bits. How do you know this useless information? Well, first off, love that. Very direct. How do I know this useless information? Okay, so when I was 18, going on 19, I went to art school. I went to an art campus, and I was a straight A student, painting, doing art, and I'd never connected with the course. It didn't feel right. I felt like we were just doing art for art's sake, and there wasn't any intrinsic why behind it. And it broke me. It slowly broke me to the point that actually I had enough, and I quit after the first year. Not a single grade below an A, but I quit. And I moved into philosophy and art history. And a lot of my useless information about how I feel about art, or how, different art movements and ideas, comes from philosophy and art history. And so I use that now, ironically, to better understand art now that I'm back to being an artist. I honestly wouldn't have gone about it any other way. This is my path. But yes, a brain full of seemingly useless facts. But at the end of the day, if you look at art as an opportunity to bring a bit of happiness into someone's life, I don't mean that in the cheesy way. I mean, if there's art on your walls, if there's art in your life, can you create a literal improvement to someone's existence? Not that they have an epiphany every morning, but they feel a little bit better when in the presence of a bit of art. Well, that has a massive, 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 massive passive effect over a long period of time. And so if that's possible, that's valuable. We're not competing with songs in the instant moment where you hear Little World of Our Own or My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion. Celine Dion, in the 3 minutes that the song runs for, will usually or literally outcompete almost any work of art in existence. That's a fact. But in the long term, over years, if we compare Celine Dion, My Heart Will Go On, with a painting in the living room, after 20 years, the painting will actually passively deliver more life fulfillment, more pleasure, more value than that song. And so there's two very different forms of art that are building on your life. Now, if we're talking about actually creating fulfillment and happiness and improving the quality of life, obviously you've got your essentials, the roof, the food, the friends, connection, these sort of things. Yes, essentials, I totally get it. But once you actually have the ability to survive, we start talking about making art worth living. And that comes from things like music, like dance, like art. And so when we start talking about that, this information goes from being useless to not just useful, but vital. And once it becomes vital, I don't know, I wouldn't frame that in the lens of useless. That's just my 2 cents. For me, art saves my life. I left art when I was younger. I felt empty, and I found my way back to it in order to express myself in this world, to try and make sense of it, to try and actually understand me as a human, why I'm here, and what even matters. So when I went back to art, it was actually out of necessity to express myself and be myself. And I did it completely in secret. A lot of people say, I want to express myself, but they want people to see it. When I first started, it was just me in a garage at the storage shed of a restaurant. And I would paint there. And after I was finished, I'd paint it white. And then I'd paint again. And then I'd paint it white again. And I'd do this on repeat, over and over and over again. And now we're here. But what originally found me to art, drew me to art, was a very, very personal intention. And arguably a life-saving one. So, with that in mind, there's a lot of value to art. Man, look at my knees. This is just dirty. Merry Christmas, Andy and Mike. Yes, this painting is absolutely stacked with details. And that's the important thing. You go from a distance, you see the picture, it hasn't really changed since the first coat. But when you come close, there is an abundance of detail, and that's part of the fun in this piece. Something about the answer there. Let me come up here. Excellent answer. That's a good start. We are all very proud of you. Definitely an inspiration. Well, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thank you so much. I appreciate that. Let me come down here a little bit. Oh my, I've always called you the philosopher artist. Can I just say that although we articulate ideas here, every artist, while they're creating, is asking the same existential philosophy questions. You build out your personality and think about things in a different way when you're pursuing expression. And that's not just with painting, that's with dancing, that's with singing. You have these epiphanies to better understand the world. And through that, that's what makes art so perfectly relevant. When I look at art or to purchase one, I want to feel if it moves me in some emotional way. Is that weird? No, that's the only reason why you touch art. We talked about that before. Attention, reward, and passive reward. Does it grab your attention? Does it give you a reward for having your attention? And then after that initial interaction, does it give you a passive reward every time you look at it thereon after? Without those 3 things, it's not really art, is it? So when you look at a piece, it may not give you an immediate reward. That's okay. But it has to emotionally stimulate you. Why would you go watch dance or do a dance that doesn't emotionally stimulate you? That sounds truly awful. Why would you sing songs that didn't really make you passionate, that you didn't really believe in? Ooh. On the same vein, why would you ever... There's so much art out there, guys. You don't have time to fill your life with anything that doesn't actually emotionally reward you. That stuff's out there. And now on your phone, on your literal phone, you've got the ability to drop a paintbrush literally anywhere around the world and see art in a way that no one in history has that have been limited and wondering what your taste could be, you can explore it literally from your phone. And I think that is one of the most beautiful things achieved in the 21st century. We've seen the proliferation of music, Spotify, on your phone, hear every song, every person with a phone and an internet connection can hear Ed Sheeran. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And now, over the last decade, suddenly every person has the ability to not only see the greatest artworks the world has ever known via their smartphone, but also any new art that strikes them, that makes them feel good, they can also see. This is unbelievably powerful and beautiful. This is, despite what people will tell you, the greatest time in all of history for art. 200 years ago, you'd have to find a specific book where the printing wasn't as great, the colours wouldn't be good. 200 years ago, the book didn't even, the printing book wouldn't have existed. For art, you'd have to go see a museum, see the artwork in person. Yeah, photography was only invented in the 19th century. Guys, this century you're in right now, and I know seeing a picture of it may not be the same as seeing the real thing, but the century you're in right now, you can see pictures of all the greatest pieces in human existence. You don't need to go to the Louvre to see something truly unique and special. That's outrageous. I love that for you. I went to the Louvre, and it was only to re-see works I'd already seen. None of it was new to me. I'd learned all about it in art school. I'd seen the pictures, and now I've seen it in person. It's truly incredible. So, of course, now we've got things like AI, and you do start questioning what's real, but maybe that's a healthy question. We've had 10 years of every artwork existing in our pockets, and now we wonder which ones of those artworks are actually real and which ones have been generated to appease us. See, that frustrates us deeply because we don't want pictures generated to appease us. We want to find things that make us happy, but we don't want them thrust at us because something knows to make us happy. We want those to be found like gems in the mind. And we want to run into things that we're not completely happy with, that are imperfect, in a pursuit of actually something more special. That's how I feel. You see, that AI art, what's perfect? When did we ever want perfect? When was that ever the pursuit of exactly what we were after? We didn't want perfect. We wanted what we loved. And what we loved was perfect in our eyes. And that's the thing that's strictly a quality of humanity. Love this painting. Can you ever say, cheers, Steve. I appreciate you. I thought you were saying you love the painting. But, the one thing I like about art is we've never really had to run a sales pitch of any kind. I could literally just see music or works, and the people who these works are meant for would be found. That's something really special, unorthodox. You know, usually you have a product and a marketing strategy. The marketing strategy here, guys, is to try and give you the biggest dose of raw, authentic art and exactly how I make it as I possibly can. That's the strategy. And if it doesn't resonate, that's okay. I'll keep it. I deeply, deeply want it. But if it does resonate, maybe it's right for you. Maybe. And maybe it's not. Who am I to say? You're you. You're individual. You're unique. No knows what you like better than you. Well, maybe your partner does. After all, one beautiful thing about having a partner is they come to know us sometimes better than we know ourselves. And that's pretty special. That's another thing that art brings us to. Just like music and dance, it brings us into a community. I feel like in a world where we used to have smaller communities and we'd talk to each other as we drove down the road and we'd go to a community hall and we'd hang out. Now that those things are actually relics of the past, I feel like communities online can give us fulfillment and pleasure to connect with people. Because just because we no longer have a town hall, it doesn't mean our need to connect with individuals to some degree isn't still incredibly relevant and important. So that's where live, I think, makes something really, really beautiful for us. To be able to be in a space, this little studio that we're in right now, and you can be here with me. And I think that's really potent. Yeah. I don't fully understand it yet, but I think it's important. This is my favorite sky and sunset. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And who's John Campbell? You need to help me out here. Ooh. Bueno Gio, no? I need your help, but thank you very much. And I sent you an IG Martha Stewart egging recipe. I'm excited to read that. I am very, very excited to read that. And I appreciate that. That's the, that's exactly to a T what they want to do. I used to, when I first started, avoid words like vibe and energy. But the more I paint, the more I lean towards these words going, it's the right word to explain what we're trying to proliferate here. It's the, it's not something spiritual as such, but it is something that actually creates an environment, a vibe. When you're in a room and there's no art in it, it's a very different room to a room that's full of art. Liken it to a restaurant that you go into that has no music versus a restaurant you go into that does, that has, you know, a vibe. And to not embrace that and to create a vibe in your own home, I feel like you can miss out on a trick. And I don't even think you need to own the art though, guys. I think you can get a lot of the vibe of art right here, just being a part of the process behind it. You can own art, you definitely can, and that's the best thing to do, but not all people have the room in their apartments or the wall space left. And so that's okay. But being a part of the process of art being made, that allows you to bring it into your life. And I think one great thing I've seen, a lot of the reels now on Instagram and TikTok, and not that it's all about reels, but a lot of them that I see, people are showing the process, how it's been made, the story behind it. And that's potent, guys, because there was a weird phase where everyone was just showing a finished result of art, saying, please buy my art. And I'm so glad that's over, because those end results were never what art was ever about. Showing finished results. I think I'm so glad that actually, by chance, we fell to the side of here's the process of how it's made, get excited. There's that trapeze guy. He keeps tagging fake art movement in all his posts. I'm like, this is not fake art. This is real art. This is beautiful, stunning art. Stop calling it fake. But again, maybe he just says that to upset people. It's real though. It's real, it's colourful, it's beautiful. It's got a story behind it. It's hard to make. I see a lot of people in the comment section of his videos being like, I could do this. And I'm like, I don't even know if I could hang upside down like that without giving myself some serious head spins. But there's a confident group of people who will declare that they could do what he does. And I love that. And if you could do it, it's like music and dancing. If you could dance like that, if you could sing like that, then it's not just a, oh, okay. It's you now have a responsibility to do that. Do you know how much joy your singing and dancing can bring humanity? Do you know how much joy that your art can bring humanity? It always comes from an insecure place of, I just don't know if everyone will like it. It's less about being loved and more about that expression that will give other people permission to be themselves. Whether they like your art or not, simply by you making it, you'll allow other people to be themselves. To be the best version of themselves they can be. Even if they don't like it. Because the moment we stop singing, painting and dancing, is the real moment that we become numb, isolated and cold. And to my last breath, guys, to my very last breath, that is the reality that I do not want to be a part of. I want something raw, honest and authentic. And I feel like we could all do whatever we can to make that world a reality. So when I get to the end of my days, I lay down there, if I'm lucky enough to make it to a ripe old age, all I'll want, and all anyone ever wants, is to have lived more honestly and authentically in the best version of themselves that they could imagine at the time. To do any less than that, you don't have enough time. There's not enough days in 100 years to be anything but yourself. It's just simply not. We talk about that. We used to talk about that book a lot, 8 Regrets, The Dying. Still as relevant now as it was then. We always feel like, I remember thinking when I was 25, I've got plenty of time to live up my 20s. I've got 5 years. Blah, 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 blah. It's not like that, guys. There's not plenty of time. And those who make it to ripe old ages are the lucky ones. The best time is now. The best time was before. But the second best time, well, that's right now. All right, team. I think I might move this photo to a little bit more. And then we'll let that dry and reconsider for a little bit. Just need a little bit more pink in my paint. My knees have got absolutely filthy with this painting process though. David, welcome on in. Here we are. Here we go. Beautiful. And we'll pause there. All right, team. Thank you very much for being with me here on Christmas Eve. I've got a few more presents to wrap, and long time no see indeed. A few more presents to wrap, and tomorrow for us in New Zealand, if you're coming to here from America or other places around the world, it'll be Christmas Eve for you. It's Christmas Eve here in New Zealand. So Christmas Day. And on Boxing Day, fun idea, maybe we do some painting on Boxing Day. So it's for Christmas for you guys. But we'll see. It's about to get hectic, lots of family gathering, lots of celebrations, lots of joy. But if we do come on here and spend some time with you, that would be fantastic. All right, guys, love from the New Zealand studio. Wishing you all the best. Love music. Catch you later. And until next time, I'm going to go for a swim. My chubby fingers. There we go.